What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video of Hockey Never Stops, and in this video we're going to be covering 5 players who are going to be very good rentals at the trade deadline this year. And specifically, we're going to be only looking at players with 1 year left in their contract, and they're going to be a UFA this summer. So players like Mattias Ekholm will not be included in this video because he has another year after this one. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before we get into our list here, I'm just going to go over 3 players that I consider as honorable mentions. Number 1 was Tanner Pearson, who's a good middle 6 forward. He can sometimes play on the second line with a really good second line center, and he's shown that in Vancouver so far the past 3 years. The next one is Mikael Granlund, where it looks like Nashville is going to be struggling once again this year, and I think that Mikael Granlund has been an awful fit in Nashville, yet he's still signed there before. And he's still pretty young. I believe he hasn't even reached 30 yet, so I think he could still rebound and become a top 6 forward once again. And lastly, we have Ian Cole. Ian Cole is one of the best third pair defensemen in my opinion throughout the whole league. But with Minnesota looking pretty good this year, I think they might actually keep him for a playoff run in the future. And starting off our official list, we're going to start off with Alex Iafallo on the Los Angeles Kings. Now, out of all 5 players we're going to be covering today, I think Alex Iafallo has the least likely chance to get traded just because of how good of a fit it's been in LA for the past 4 years. He signed there out of the NCAA after playing 4 years there, and eventually came over to LA and is being a very solid middle 6 winger for them. And I think as time goes along, Alex Iafallo is even going to get better as a player and play a prominent role for the Kings. That is if he signs a new contract with them. So if he gets traded this trade deadline, he's going to get a really big package coming back. I predict he could get a first round pick just because of how he plays. He can play in your second, your third line, even your first line from time to time, and just chip in some really good offense in there and play a very solid two-way game. He can also play center when you need him, and he's probably a good middle 6 forward that can play up and down your lineup. Next up, we have Eric Staal. Now, Eric Staal came in this year looking like to be the second line center for Buffalo, but it has plainly just not worked out. Now, he is 36 years of age, so it's possible he did just drop off and he's starting to age, but I think he can still be a good third line center on a contending team. He can still put up a good amount of offense and still play on a number 1 or number 2 power play. Now, for a team that I think that he could go to is the Chicago Blackhawks. You know, losing Jonathan Toews, I know that they've had a lot of rookies that have come in and played solid, but some of them have dropped off a little, and Chicago is still in 4th place. So I think getting Eric Staal in there can provide some good leadership for that group and maybe push them over the top where they can sneak into the 4th or 3rd spot. And coming in at number 3, we have David Savard, who is a right shot defenseman who can play in your top 4, and currently he plays on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, David Savard, his offense has kind of dropped off the past couple of years, but he can still play on your number 1 PK and shut down a top opponent, but don't play him too much. Play him probably, I'd say, 20 minutes a night, and you're looking at a very solid second pair defenseman. I think the package that you're going to get back for David Savard could look pretty good for Columbus, considering the lack of right shot defensemen that are obviously in the NHL, and I think it's possible you could get a first round pick and a prospect back for him. A team that I think that could acquire David Savard is the Winnipeg Jets, where they're having a hole on their second pair right D right now. And I think he could just be a solid stay-at-home defenseman for someone like Ville Heinola or Josh Morrissey. And at number 2, we're going to talk about Kyle Palmieri here, who is an excellent top 6 winger who can play on your number 1 power play, play on your top 2 lines. He's one of the more consistent players in the NHL when it comes to goal scoring. I know this year has been a little bit of an off season for him, but I still think he could get a very good package coming back to New Jersey. Now, New Jersey could also re-sign him because of the value that he's provided to them for the past 5 years, but I still think that they can get a very good package coming back for him, especially with Palmieri entering his 30s. You know, it's possible he drops off a little bit. Now, a team that I think that could go out and get Palmieri for a good package is the Boston Bruins. I think the Boston Bruins are still looking to make the playoffs, obviously, and you're looking for a second line right winger. No better than Kyle Palmieri right there, just to play with Jake DeBrusk and David Krejci. And Palmieri just seems like he's a Bruin for some reason. And finally, at number 1, we have Taylor Hall, of course, who's carrying an $8 million cap hit at the moment, so it might be a little hard to trade him considering how tough the cap is at the moment in the NHL. But you look at Taylor Hall's track record, I mean, he's probably a top line winger at the moment. He's still pretty young, and I think he just needs a new change of scenery. Now, he might be one of the more overrated players in the NHL, but I still think if you trade him to a contender and he plays 20 games there, he can definitely put up 20 points on the correct line. It has just been an awful year in Buffalo, and you need to get him out of there as soon as possible. Now, getting Taylor Hall back, you're probably getting at least a first-round pick and a very good prospect, just because of Taylor Hall's name in the NHL, and he just won an MVP award just 3 years ago, so I think there's going to be a GM that's going to overpay for him. Now, a team that definitely makes sense is the New York Islanders with Anders Lee going down, but he might be back for the playoffs, but I think getting a left winger and Taylor Hall is definitely going to make up the offense that Lee provides. And another one is Carolina. I mean, Carolina's already pretty deep as it gets, but I think, if you send a player back, like, I don't need a writer, send some salary back, then I think that the Carolina Hurricanes could be a great fit for Taylor Hall, just rounding out that top 6, and the Carolina Hurricanes could definitely be going for it this year if they trade for him. And I mean, you look at Buffalo's record, there's no reason for them to keep him go for a huge playoff run at the end of the year. Jack Eichel is still injured, and it's just overall a horrible year for Buffalo, and they should just cut bait with Taylor Hall and just try to get assets back. So thank you for watching this video. Please hit like, comment down below, and subscribe for some future hockey videos that are yet to come. And let me know if there's any players that I missed in this video, because honestly, we could see some players come out of nowhere that are traded out of left field. And this should be a very interesting year because they're only going to be playing in division games, and with the rules with quarantining, crossing over the border from the United States to Canada and vice versa. But that's all for today, and I will see you in the next video.